Hey everyone, and welcome to Meeting Protocol Monthly, where we chat with some of the coolest people in the business and bring you useful and relevant information about what's happening in the world of meeting planning. I am Dora Figueredo, the head of events and education at Meeting Protocol, coming to you from New Jersey. Whether you are a new event planner or seasoned vet, we know that it can be tricky to navigate manager and client relationships. In this episode 1, which I'm super pumped about, we are going to discuss exactly this so that you can take helpful action steps as soon as you finish listening. I am thrilled to welcome our very first special guest, Melody Dunlap from JMD Productions. Her impressive background includes being a content writer for the New York Times for best-selling nonfiction books, a marketing strategist, and having over 1,000 events under her event planning belt. So thank you so much, Melody, for joining us. Tell us where you're joining from today and the quick background of what got you into event planning.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Dora. I am joining you from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is where I was born and raised. My husband and I have this business together, JMD Productions, where we do a lot of marketing consulting for individuals, and part of that ends up being events. And on the, kind of what was a side hustle or what was thrown on me at the different jobs that I ended up working, just because I was a skilled administrator, I turned it into a business. And so when me and my husband came together, he specialized in media, like video and photography, and I specialized in administration and events. So we just put it together and made it a consulting business so we can offer marketing tools to anybody in those areas.
That's great. Yeah. Well, today we are going to focus on bringing clients into your planning process when you take ownership of the event that you are crafting, but the decisions and the party ultimately belong to the client themselves. So can you talk to us a little bit about this delicate balance?
Yes, absolutely. So it is imperative that we keep that customer first mentality because it's very easy. And I call myself an administrative creative. So I'm sure that there are others out there that may be listening, watching, that you're administrative, but you're also creative. You have that part of your brain that's always thinking of new ideas. Maybe ideation is one of your strengths, like me. And so while I love bringing that to the table, I always have to keep the customer focus first because that's what's most important. I'm here to serve them and to serve their vision and help bring it to life. So I do as much digging and asking questions as I possibly can to try to get an understanding of what it is that they want. And what I've found in a lot of times, with my client consults is that they don't really know exactly what they want. You'd be surprised. Some people are like, yeah, I'll use wedding, for example, because that's one of my main event clients right now is weddings. We've had a lot of weddings. And so over the past 5-6 years, I've been doing that. And I'll sit down with a client, and it's usually the bride that I'm talking to. Sometimes their maid of honor or matron of honor joins in on the call, or the groom joins in. But we all know the woman is usually the one that's doing a lot of that planning and all the girly stuff. Yeah. And so I'll ask her, okay, what colors are you thinking? What design? Do you want it to be more modern, more romantic, do you like things like this? I'll have picture examples to kind of give them a guided flow of what we want it to look like. And then I start getting into logistical information, like, okay, date, time, do you have a venue? Do you have a dress? Do you have these people involved? And that gives me all the information that I need in order to put together a package and a plan for them from there. So to answer your question, I try to keep the balance by getting as much information about the customer's vision as possible, or helping them discover their vision if they don't know how to articulate it. I kind of give them a path to be able to articulate their vision, and that way it makes it a lot easier for me to carry it out. And then anytime that I have something that is creative to add to it, I always just run it by them. And what I actually did, I learned to do this with JMD Productions, is I have 3 different price tiers and 3 different kind of package options that clients can choose from. So it gives them the option of the super less involved. You just want me to be kind of a doer and just do exactly what you say and show up at this time in this place and make sure that everything is good the day of the event. Or do you want me to be collaborative in the planning process? That would be tier number 2. That means that we're going to the places together. I'm looking up things for you and running everything by you. We have shared spreadsheets and shared notes. And then option 3 is like, I'm too busy for this. I just want to get married. Or I'm too busy for this. I just need to have a corporate luncheon on the 13th. And I'm like, okay, got it. And they give me a budget, and I have them put the money on a card, fill out a questionnaire, and I just go. And so that's the most fun for me because I get to use all my creative expertise to make their event happen.
That's great. I'm just curious, what is the sort of do you have like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split between these tiers? Does it really vary on the type of event? Like, oh, brides always want tier 1, but corporate clients always want tier 3. Like, what's that breakdown like?
Honestly, what you just said is pretty accurate. Brides usually want tier 2. They want to be involved in the planning process. Obviously, you don't, for the most part, it's kind of like your baby. It's the one day that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and everybody has so much pressure on this one day. What I've noticed with weddings is there's also a lot of cultural pressure in our westernized culture to do things a certain way. So I try to free them from that as much as possible and just make them feel very comfortable knowing like, this is your day. You can do what you want. I am your, right arm to just go make whatever it is that you want happen. So we usually do the collaborative for a lot of weddings. I think I've only had one that chose tier 3 where they were kind of more hands off. And then sort of by the end of it, they were way more hands on, like when we got closer to closer to the time. So I honestly don't even really count that one. Corporate clients, they do tend to be really hands off because it's a lot of executors, a lot of type A personalities that are like, this is what I need, this is when I need it. I don't care about the colors, make it look fancy. And I get the gist of from them. Instead of getting creative vision, I get more, what is your vision behind having this event? If it's for networking, then I want to make sure that I eliminate distractions in the room. There can't be a loud live band playing because nobody can hear each other talking to each other. If we're going to do tables, maybe it's standing pub tables at different places instead of like seated areas where people would be more likely to mingle with only therefore and no more. So I take into consideration like what it is that will help execute the vision behind their event or the vision of their company being kind of, just strewn all through there. And that way it makes it a much more successful event for them and they're pleased. So.
And I can imagine somebody, especially a corporate client who's never done events before, who has limited experience with it, being like, but a band sounds like such a good idea. It'll really liven up the space. And you have to like very delicately say, no, not at all. Which is
very true.
Right. It's something that we hear a lot called managing up. So it sounds like this is something that you have a really good grip on in your day-to-day work with all of your clients. So talk to me a little bit about what it means to you to manage up when working with any of your clients.
Yeah, that is an excellent question. Managing up, I love that term because it really is that. I mean, essentially, they're not my boss, but they're kind of my boss. When they hire me, like I said, customer focus first is my motto. And so I believe that in any customer service job, whether you're a cashier or somebody who's serving food, or waiter, waitress, a service person of any sort, like you have to keep that as your focus, even though you're the one doing all the work and, all of that. And you might have a better idea or a better route of how it's to be done. I actually had a meeting with a client earlier today that involved just that because I'm doing some consulting work for their business and getting some kind of HR organizational structural stuff done for their staff. And I was like, well, this is what I recommend in my professional opinion, XYZ. And I roll it all out to them, real nice spreadsheets and charts, the whole thing. And they're like, oh, I want to do this. I said, okay, so here's the reasons why. I've analyzed what you asked for. And this is it. If this is what you want to do, you're the boss. I'm gonna let you do this. I have no say in your organization. I'm just here temporarily as a consultant. But I do recommend doing this, which adopts a little bit of what you said. Always make sure that you reference back to, I heard your vision. I heard your concerns. This is how I plan to offer solutions to those problems. But at the same time, this is what I recommend because this will keep you out of trouble in these areas or whatever else. And so I present it as if it's an option and make them kind of buy in as if it's their idea. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. And they're like, oh, okay, great. So we'll go ahead and go with option A, It's all about marketing. Really, everything is marketing. Every conversation we have, even right now, is marketing. We are telling you about something, a product, a service, something that you want to buy into, and then trying to essentially, get a net catch, get something that's going to grab people's attention long enough that they'll want to buy in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's also interesting to me that a client trusts you enough to hire you. They say, I've spoken with Melody. She seems amazing. Love her vision. Let's go with it. And then throughout the process, they're still kind of like, well, what I really wanted was this. And you're like, but you hired me to.
Exactly.
Right. So you're right. You really do have to play a little magic with words and market. Help making people think that a decision was their own, I think is a really fundamental piece of being an event planner and a marketer. It sounds like you're doing great.
Thank you.
So many event planners are one-man shows. I know that your company is you and your husband, but how do you guys divide the work?
Ooh, that also is a good question, and I have learned the hard way. So I'm going to help anybody who's listening right now. Please do not live in a silo. Do not be isolated in your work. Don't take on more than your shoulders can handle. I'm saying all of the different ways that I could say it, all the synonyms to help you understand how important that is. I used to be less trusting of people, and what I mean by that is I thought, well, if I can do all of this work myself, then I don't want to have to train or teach somebody else how to think like me or to do like me. I want to just be able to do it because I could just get it done and move on. And so, yeah, sure, there's a lot of things that I could just get done and move on. But then those things start piling up, even though they're all little things. If there's 20 little things, that amounts to like really big things, at some point. And so it was putting too much work on me where I was missing deadlines for clients, or I was, even if they're self-imposed deadlines, like I'm the one that's giving them the production timeline and I'm missing my own timeline. That's not good. And so what I realized is me not trusting other people was causing clients to not be able to trust me as much. Like I wouldn't be as trustworthy because I wasn't willing to delegate. And so I figured out a system, what works best for me and my husband right now. Like I said, we're still a small business. It's just the two of us that are actual employees of the company or owners. But whenever I have a larger event like a wedding or something that's going to require a lot of setup and cleanup or a lot of maintenance and manpower in the middle, I hire in people. And I include that in my client's contract. I say it'll be, $25 an hour for me to hire this many people, or $50 extra an hour. And that way I get people, it can be interns, it could be college students that are just looking to make some extra gas money, whatever. And they'll come in and do setup and cleanup for me. Or sometimes I broke my friends into it. Like, hey, you want to make an extra $100? Come with me this Saturday. And so I make sure to communicate that with my clients so that they understand that this is something that I'm providing as a service from my organization, but I'm bringing in other people who aren't necessarily like my employees so that they're clear on who those people will be that are running around their event. But yeah, I've learned very, very well to make sure that the work is divided because my husband and I, as business partners, have completely opposite ends as far as like what our expert level skills are. I know very little to nothing about running a camera. I'm pretty good at doing like the iPhone camera stuff. I can get some really great reel footage at our events and at his video shoots so we can post some things. But I'm not the greatest at knowing what autofocus does. Like, I don't, so I leave that stuff up to him. He is the skilled one in that area. But if he needs me, he just trains me, teaches me how to do it, and then I run it. In the same area with the analytical, the consulting, and the administrative side, that's my area of expertise. And so I went to school for business management and actually did vocal performance as a creative side too. So I love everything that has to do with music and creativity and the colors, and that's not his thing. So the event side is usually my gig, but he's a big 6'5" strong guy. So I'm like, you're going to help us with setup and tear down. I easily just delegate things, back and forth to him, and he delegates to me as it's necessary so we can make sure that the workload is spread as evenly as possible, even though we have different areas that we're expert in.
That's great. I love that. What are some systems that you have come up with that keep things kind of working smoothly on their own, especially as your volume of work grows?
You said systems that keep everything running smoothly?
Yeah, as your volume of work grows.
So I would say the number one thing is I love shared documents. I think they just save our lives nowadays. Between me and my husband as business partners, we use Google Drive primarily. We also use Dropbox for large like video files and sharing customer files and things like that. If it's anything that's a collaborative project, then we use Google Drive, and it has been a lifesaver for us because I can easily just share a document with a client. I can use a sign and edit feature that they have on there if I need somebody to sign a contract on something or follow up or fill out a form. I can create forms in there, and it automatically throws it to a spreadsheet so that I don't have to do all that data entry typing. It's a lifesaver for me. So that's my number one life hack favorite system that I put in place. Also, the word system honestly is kind of my middle name. Like I am always about, it's really faith, but but I love creating systems because that means that whatever it is that's running is not dependent on one person. And that goes back to that, don't work in a silo. You have to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're thinking legacy, that you're thinking ahead. if I was to not be there this one day, if I was unable to make this meeting, if I was unable to carry on this task, who could do it in my absence? And what would they need to know in order to effectively do it just like I was there, And I've done this with all of my jobs that I've worked. After I learned my lesson, I realized that one of administrative job I had, that everything was revolving around me. I mean, if I was gone for a day and a half, out sick or on vacation or whatever, then I come back and like everything is on fire. And everybody's like, no, where's this at? Oh my gosh, we missed you so much. And so I was like, okay, I have to figure out a way to help you people who are not so administrative minded still run this place while I'm gone. And so I've taken that to heart with our business as well. And we have so many different little things that are set up, even if it's just forms and structures in our Google Drive, to where if I needed to hire somebody out for an event, here's the form that you fill out. And it tells me everything I need to know. And it tells you everything you need to know in an automatic response. Like, I just put things in place to where it's not so much revolving around me having to be the person to do it. And that makes it easier for me to delegate to my husband or to another person that I hire in.
That's amazing. The word delegate is such a beautiful word, isn't it?
It is.
Well, since it's you and your husband and you do so much work, can you give us some advice on how to set and maintain boundaries to keep yourself sane at work and in life? Because I think that event planning is so prone to, especially during event season, or especially if you're a wedding planner, during the summer season, you might have like 6 or 7 weddings in a month, right? And so how do you separate yourself from your work when you're running your own business and keep your boundaries and keep yourself sane?
That is excellent. My dad used to say it like this: the clock and the calendar are the boss. And so as much as we don't want them to be, sometimes we feel like our days are getting away from us, or time feels like it's shorter, or like, oh my gosh, is it really 4:30 already? So I have to make sure that I keep that in mind. The clock and the calendar really are the boss, because time is going to keep going. And so I have to tell my time what I want it to do instead of letting it dictate to me how how this is going to go. Like, I have to really delegate to my time, if that makes sense. And so I make schedules. I put everything in I cannot stress this enough. Put everything in a calendar. It's going to feel really weird if you're not used to doing it, but do it. Just start putting like this appointment, or go pick this up from the cleaners at this time. Like, give yourself times for almost everything that you can possibly think of. Some people prefer to use paper planners. I'm a techie girl, so everything's in my Google Calendar or in my my phone calendar. I have calendars that are separate for personal things versus client relations things, so that way I don't get those things mixed up. If it's something that's kind of optional and I can move it around, I color code it. Like, this is something that I would like to get done by this time. This is something that I have to be at by this time. So I have little quirks and things like that just work for me. You can find what system works for you. There's that system word again. But yeah, boundaries are really like the biggest thing I could say is protect your time. And on the other note of protecting your time, you have to set boundaries with your clients. I have learned this the hard way as well. I've learned a lot of things the hard way. I wish I had had a couple of these kind of things to sit in on first before I started going into event coordinating. But so I'll tell this funny story. I had a client. I don't think she meant to be a bridezilla, but she just kind of was. And bless her little heart, And so getting these phone calls at, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and text messages and emails at midnight, 1 a.m. And so I was like, okay, we gotta do something about this. And just one time, I answered the phone. I think it was at like 10. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's calling me. And I'm thinking, is everything okay? So I answered the phone. I was like, hey, you good? Yes, I'm just freaking out about, the caterer was asking me this question. And in my head, I was like, could this not have waited till 10 a.m.? And so I guess that one time sent a signal to her that, oh, this is okay. And these are her office hours. And so because I didn't set that boundary early on, then it made it like a free for all. And I was getting all those emails and all those calls. And then she was giving my number to other people that were involved with the wedding, and they were asking questions. Girl, it was a whole mess. Wow. So like I said, learn the hard way. But now in my contract, it states the hours that I will be available to respond on call. And so I have in there, like, from this time AM to this time PM, you will get a response from me as soon as I am available. If it is after that time, then please wait until the following day at X AM, and then I will respond, And so that just lets clients know, like, okay, you could send me an email at midnight, but I got to get better about turning my phone on Do Not Disturb so that I don't get that call. if you did need to leave a message because I'm going to forget this. I woke up at 1 a.m. and went to the bathroom, and then I remembered that I need to pick up the flowers tomorrow. Like, that's fine. Send it to me. I'm just not going to respond until after 9 a.m.
Oh my gosh, that's so healthy.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm sure that there's so many people listening right now who are probably like, you can tell your clients that you won't respond or you just don't respond at midnight. I think this is like, I wanted to close out by asking a last question on like a wellness tip or hack. And I feel like this is the perfect tip for people. Like, create boundaries, stick to them, give yourself permission. We are giving you the permission. It is okay. I love that so much.
Yes, put your mask on first. They tell us every time we get on an airplane, if you're seated next to a small child or an elderly person that may need assistance putting on their oxygen mask when it drops down and cabin pressure changes, put your mask on first and then assist them. The reason for that is because it's kind of divine order. Like when God made us, He wanted us to put on our masks first, make sure that we're good, because we would be no good to help the child or the elderly person next to us if we pass out. Yeah. We're going to both pass out. And so it's that same thing. I mean, they hired me because they want my skill, they want my brain, they want my expertise, they want, my know-how. But the only way that I can protect that is by making sure that I stay sane and that I'm able to have time to think and process and set up the systems to help the event succeed. And so if I don't take care of me as part of that process and protect my time as part of that process, I have a blocked out date night for me and my husband on my calendar. We're not allowed to work, nothing. We have to have movie night, even if it's at the house. If we're in our pajamas, like during quarantine season, like we have date night. And so, protecting that time is so important. And if once in a while it has to get rescheduled, it gets rescheduled, not canceled. Like it gets changed to a different day or changed to a different time. So I can't stress that enough. Protect your time, protect your boundaries, set your personal boundaries, figure out what works for you, because everybody's different. Everybody doesn't need to block out an entire day. Maybe your time needs to be early in the mornings because you like to go walking and meditate or whatever. Like you have to figure out what it is that's going to help you stay centered so that you can be at your best performing self and not make it to where the client is running you ragged and you're barely having enough of yourself to give to them.
I love that so much. That was perfect. Perfect way to close. Thank you so much. Well, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I have truly learned a lot from you today in just the last 20 minutes. Awesome. For those who want to learn more about you and JMD Productions, where can they go to for more information?
jmdproductions.co, jmdproductions.co. You'll see my tall, dark, and handsome husband, Joshua, on there. And we have all the information about us, how we got started, our business, and what services we provide on the website. We're also on social media at JMD Productions on Instagram and Facebook.com/JMD Pro Media.
Great. Everybody, go give them a follow. Well, thank you so much, Melody. And thanks to the listeners and Meeting Protocol fans for checking out this first episode. Don't forget to come to meetingprotocol.org where you can sign up for our newsletter. That includes a CMP tip of the month. We also have a CMP study class the first Wednesday of every month and tons of resources for all things related to meeting professionals in CMP. Thanks, everybody, for listening.